embarrassing of everything.
The Covenless Witch.
It's been Agatha all along.
No. What really happened to you?
Welcome to Mr. Screen, the liberation of Agatha Harkness. After Wanda Maximoff's defeat at the hands of Doctor Strange and the subsequent death of the Scarlet Witch, the world thought that chaos had been controlled. However, in the deep silence of the mystical prison created by Wanda in Westview, another force was awakening. Agatha Harkness, previously imprisoned and without her memories, began to slowly free herself from the spell that kept her subjugated. The process of liberation was long and painful. Wanda's magic was powerful, and control over Agatha seemed impossible to break. But with the death of the Scarlet Witch, the chaotic energies that permeated the spell began to dissipate, weakening the bonds that held Agatha captive. One night, under the light of an ominous red moon, Agatha finally broke her magical chains and freed herself. What happened? Agatha whispered, confused and disoriented. Memories of her last moments with Wanda came flooding back to her in disturbing flashes. She remembered how she had underestimated the Scarlet Witch. Our plan to steal Wanda's power had failed miserably. Yet now she was free, and with an unsettling feeling that something far worse was about to happen. Wasting no time, Agatha retreated to her ancient sanctuary, filled with mystical tomes and ancient artifacts. There was an urgency in the air, as if the very fabric of reality itself was on the verge of collapse. Agatha sensed that there was something she needed to understand, something that had yet to be fully revealed. That was when her eyes fell upon the darkest book of all, the Darkhold. The Darkhold and the prophecy. As she leafed through the Darkhold's macabre pages, Agatha felt the familiar dark energy emanating from the book. The words in an ancient language pulsed with a dark force, and she knew she was getting closer to the truth. Then, in a central page, she read something that made her stop in her tracks. The prophecy spoke of the return of a great destroyer, one who would be resurrected from the ashes to bring Doomsday upon all creation. This being was none other than Tony Stark, Iron Man, who, in alternate future, would be brought back to life, but in a twisted form. He would not return as the hero everyone knew, but as a twisted fusion of his technological genius and the arcane power of Victor Von Doom, becoming the new Doctor Doom. The Scarlet Witch started it, Agatha said, reciting the words of the prophecy aloud. Her power has begun the resurrection of Stark, but he will not be the Stark we know. He will be a corrupted version, one who will bring about the end of all things. Dread settled over Agatha. She knew that Tony Stark was one of the greatest minds of his time, but combined with the power of doom and chaos magic, he would be unstoppable, a threat without precedent. The prophecy also spoke of a great war, a battle that would destroy not only this world, but all alternate realities. Agatha knew she could not fight this threat alone. If she tried, she would be crushed like a fly. So she decided her only hope was to seek help. And to face something of this magnitude, she would need the greatest genius the world had ever known, Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic. In search of the Fantastic Four. Knowing there was no time to waste, Agatha made quick preparations. She used her magic to open a portal directly to the Baxter Building, the headquarters of the Fantastic Four. As soon as she stepped through the portal, she was greeted by the security force field that surrounded the building. Clearly, Agatha's sudden arrival was not something she had expected, and it set off alarm bells. Within seconds, Reed Richards, accompanied by Sue Storm, Johnny Storm, and Ben Grimm, appeared to confront the intruder. They were ready for any threat, but they hesitated when they saw Agatha. She looked desperate, not aggressive. "What are you doing here?" Reed asked, his voice cautious. "You're Agatha Harkness, aren't you? Shouldn't you be neutralized?" Agatha held up her hands in surrender, not intending to fight. "I'm not here to cause trouble. In fact, I'm here because if we don't do something now, the world, all realities, will be doomed. I need your help, Reed. You're the only one who can stop the end." Sue stepped forward, studying Agatha's expression. "What are you talking about?" "The end of what?" Agatha quickly explained the prophecy in the Darkhold, Tony Stark's return as Doctor Doom, and the impending apocalypse that would follow. As she spoke, the faces of the Fantastic Four members grew increasingly grim. "Tony Stark as Doctor Doom?" Reed murmured, absorbing the information. "That's unimaginable. But coming from the Darkhold, it's not impossible. He'll be a fusion of Stark's genius and Doom's evil power." Agatha continued. And once he returns, there'll be nothing we can do to stop him unless we prepare now. So what do you suggest? Johnny Storm asked, visibly uneasy. How do we stop a Stark Doom before he even shows up? We need to stop his own resurrection, Agatha said. The spell was initiated by Wanda before she died, but there is still time to undo it. I cannot do it alone. I need all of you, especially you, Reed. Only someone with your intelligence can find a way to reverse the process. Reed was silent for a moment, weighing the weight of the situation. He knew that facing something like this would require more than just power and intelligence. They would be dealing with forces beyond human comprehension. If what you are saying is true, Reed said finally, we have no other choice. We will do this. The race against time with the Fantastic Four at her side, Agatha began to prepare the ritual to locate the core of the spell that would bring Tony Stark back. They needed to act quickly, for the resurrection was in progress, and every second brought them closer to Doomsday. The plan was complex. Reed Richards, with his brilliant mind, had developed a way to use the advanced technology of the Baxter Building to track the mystical energies that connected the spell to reality. By combining Reed's scientific knowledge with Agatha's magical powers, they created a device capable of stopping the resurrection, but only if they could reach the exact location where the spell was being performed. The energy is coming from somewhere in Eastern Europe, Reed said, pointing to the holographic map. Probably near Sokovia, where Wanda's magic was strongest. That makes sense, Agatha said. Sokovia was where Wanda began to lose control over the chaos. It's where her connection to the Darkhold was strongest. Then let's go there, declared Ben Grimm, ready for action. The Fantastic Four, accompanied by Agatha, set off for Sokovia in their high-speed jet. The tension grew with every mile they got closer, for they knew that time was short. If they failed, Tony Stark's resurrection as Doctor Doom would become irreversible, and the world as they knew it would be doomed. The battle for Sokovia. When they arrived at the scene, they realized that the spell was already in its final stages. In the heart of a magic-ravaged mountain, a circle of runes glowed, chaotic energy flowing around it. It was a sight both terrifying and mesmerizing. We have to stop this now, Sue shouted, erecting a force field to shield the team from the unstable energy waves. Agatha began to cast the counterspell, her hands glowing with purple and black energy. Reed activated the device they had created, which began to channel mystical energy to contain the process. But as they approached the circle, something unexpected happened. A figure emerged from the shadows, a being who looked like a cross between Tony Stark and Victor Von Doom, but with a darker, more menacing presence. His eyes glowed with an evil green light, and his armor was a fusion of Stark's technology and Doom's mystique. "You are fools," he said, his voice resonating with power. "Nothing can stop me now. I am the future. I am Doctor Doom." The final fight. The ensuing battle was epic. Agatha used all her magic to try to contain the creature that Stark had become, while the Fantastic Four fought with all their might. Reed used his elasticity to avoid the devastating attacks, while Sue used her force fields to protect her allies. Johnny Storm, on fire, threw himself at Doom, and Ben Grimm attacked with his brute strength. But nothing seemed to be enough. The fusion of Tony Stark and Doom was too powerful. His intelligence, combined with arcane power, made him practically invincible. Reed, however, had noticed something. As they fought, he noticed that Doom's connection to the spell was still vulnerable. If they could break the source of the energy, they could perhaps reverse the process. "Agatha," Reed shouted, "focus on the circle. Break the connection." Agatha, exhausted, nodded and turned her attention to the circle of runes. With one last effort, she cast a disruption spell, and the runes began to crumble. Doom roared in rage as he realized what was happening. "No," he screamed, trying to stop Agatha. But it was too late. With one last blast of magic, Agatha broke the spell. The energy that powered Doom began to fade, and he fell to his knees, weakened. Reed and the others seized the opportunity to deliver a final strike, destroying the armor and dissipating Doom's power. What was left of Tony Stark crumpled to the ground, a shadow of the man he once was. Doomsday had been averted. Aftermath. After the battle, the Fantastic Four and Agatha were reunited. They had saved the world, but at an immense cost. The Darkhold prophecy had been stopped, but the threat of dark powers still loomed over the multiverse. "This isn't over," Agatha said, looking toward the horizon. There are forces out there beyond our comprehension. If we're not careful, something like this could happen again. Reed nodded. We have to be prepared. The multiverse is vast, and the threats are ever-growing. As Agatha prepared to leave, she looked at Reed and the rest of the group with a rare smile of gratitude. Thank you. Without you, the world would be lost. And with that, she disappeared in a swirl of magic, leaving the Fantastic Four to reflect on what they had faced and what was yet to come. The world had been saved, but the future was far from safe. Agatha's revelation. After the battle in Sokovia and the temporary defeat of the fusion between Tony Stark and Doom, Agatha Harkness left, but not without leaving one last warning. There was something in the air, an unsettling feeling that what they faced was only the beginning. Reed Richards felt the same. He knew something was still wrong, but he couldn't put his finger on it. Days passed, and the Fantastic Four team was back at the Baxter Building, trying to assess the damage and reflect on what they had learned from the confrontation. However, while Reed was immersed in his research, an unexpected visitor occurred. Agatha Harkness, once again, stepped through a portal in the middle of Reed's laboratory. Reed, Agatha said in a somber tone, there is something you need to know. Reed looked up, surprised by her sudden return. I thought we had solved the problem, he began to say, but stopped when he saw Agatha's worried expression. You don't understand, Reed. What we faced is just a manifestation, a consequence of something much larger. Reality has been altered by Wanda Maximoff in ways that even I didn't fully understand, until now. Agatha stepped closer, placing a hand on the Darkhold she brought with her. When Wanda altered reality, she didn't just play with the fabric of our timeline. Her actions created ramifications in other realities, other dimensions. And in one of those realities, the real Victor Von Doom, the original Doctor Doom, has already taken possession of Tony Stark's body. What we've seen here is just a shadow of what's to come. Reed fell silent, processing the revelation. You're saying that in another timeline. Doom has already won. Yes, Agatha said. And he's not just an enemy in this timeline. Now that he's merged his power with Stark's technological genius, he's preparing to cross realities. He's coming here, and when he does, he'll be unstoppable. Judgment Day is about to begin. The return of Doom. Weeks had passed since Agatha's warning, and the Fantastic Four remained on high alert. Reed was obsessed with the idea that Doom could appear at any moment. He monitored energy and temporal fluctuations in various parts of the world, waiting for the moment when Doom would attempt to cross from his timeline to theirs. And then the worst happened. One night, a series of explosions rocked the Baxter Building. Alarms sounded throughout the base, and defense systems began to fail one by one. Sue Storm erected a force field around the team, while Ben Grimm prepared for combat. Reed accessed the monitors, trying to understand what was happening. Then he saw it, a temporal rift opening in the New York sky, and a familiar figure emerging from it. Victor Von Doom, the real Doctor Doom, now wearing a suit of armor that combined his mystique with Tony Stark's advanced technology, hovered in midair, staring down at the chaos he had wrought. I told you he would come, muttered Agatha, who had rejoined the group. But now he is more powerful than anything we have ever faced. Doom landed in downtown New York, his shadowy presence casting a literal shadow over the city. Did you think you could stop me? His voice reverberated through the skyscrapers. I am the future. I am destiny. And now, all realities will fall at my feet. The Fantastic Four's attacks began immediately. Ben Grimm charged forward, attempting to bring Doom down with his brutal strength. Johnny Storm transformed into a ball of fire, hurling himself at the villain, while Sue attempted to counter the attacks with her force fields. But Doom was not the same enemy they had faced before. His armor absorbed blows, his magic protected him against energy attacks, and his technology made him faster and deadlier than anyone could have anticipated. Reed, seeing that they were at a disadvantage, shouted to the group, "We need reinforcements. The new Avengers assemble." Knowing that they could not win this battle alone, Reed Richards activated the emergency protocol, sending a distress signal to the Avengers. Although the original Avengers were scattered or inactive, a new generation of heroes had emerged to protect the world. Within hours, the new Avengers arrived on the battlefield. Sam Wilson, the new Captain America, led the team with the help of Peter Parker, Spider-Man, Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel, and Wolverine. Alongside them, other heroes such as Shang-Chi, Kate Bishop, and Yelena Belova were ready to face the threat. Richards, Sam Wilson shouted, landing next to the Fantastic Four. "Looks like you could use a hand." "We need more than a hand," Reed said. "Doom is more powerful than ever. He's controlling Tony Stark's body from another timeline. If we don't stop him now, he'll destroy all realities." With the new Avengers at their side, the fight against Doom began again. But even with the combined might of so many heroes, Doom seemed invincible. He deflected Captain Marvel's blows with ease, nullified Peter Parker's webs with a single gesture, and his mystical shields prevented any direct attack. "You're pathetic," Doom sneered. "I've transcended what you could ever imagine. You're no longer heroes. You're insects I'll crush under my feet." Reed Richards' plan. As the battle raged on, Reed Richards realized that they couldn't defeat Doom in a direct confrontation. They would need a strategy, something that would exploit the weaknesses of the fusion between Tony Stark and Victor Von Doom. That was when he had an idea. "Agatha!" Reed shouted as he dodged an energy blast. If Doom is using Stark's body, he must still be connected to the technological core that keeps the armor running, right? Agatha nodded, understanding what Reed was suggesting. "Yes, if we can break that connection, he will lose control of his body. But we will need something that can hack into and disable that cybernetic network." Reed looked at Peter Parker, Spider-Man. "Peter, I need you to create a device that can hack into Stark's armor. We have to overload his systems from the inside." Peter quickly worked with Reed to create a makeshift device while the rest of the heroes kept Doom occupied. Once the device was ready, Spider-Man launched himself toward Doom, using his agility to avoid the villain's devastating attacks. With a risky maneuver, Peter managed to attach the device to Doom's armor. "Now, Reed," he shouted. Reed activated the device remotely, and Doom's armor began to fail. The internal systems began to overload, and Doom fell to his knees, his connection to Stark's body weakening. "No, this can't be happening." Doom screamed, trying to regain control. But it was too late. The final judgment. As Doom struggled to maintain control, a final wave of devastating energy emanated from his armor, striking the ground and cracking reality around them. The temporal rift that Doom had used to reach this reality began to expand, threatening to swallow everything. "If we do not close this rift, the entire multiverse will be destroyed," Agatha said, her voice thick with urgency. Reed Richards, with the help of Agatha, Sam Wilson, and Peter Parker, worked quickly to find a way to stabilize the temporal rift. Using technology from the Baxter Building combined with Agatha's magic, they managed to create a temporary seal to prevent the collapse. Doom, now helpless and weakened, was finally subdued by Ben Grimm and Wolverine. "You may have won today," Doom murmured in a cold voice, "but the final judgment is far from over." With Doom defeated and the temporary rift closed, the heroes gathered, exhausted but victorious. "Doom's threat has been contained," Reed said. "But he was right about one thing. It's not over yet." Agatha nodded grimly. "What we faced today was just the beginning. The multiverse is in chaos, and there are forces beyond our comprehension moving in the shadows. So what do we do now?" Sam Wilson asked, adjusting his shield. Reed looked to the horizon, determined. "We prepare. Because the real war is yet to come." And with that, the heroes dispersed, knowing that the peace they had achieved was only temporary, and that the future would bring new challenges, greater than any of them could have imagined. Then, a new dawn in Hell's Kitchen. Matt Murdock was restless. Since Thanos' defeat and the temporary dissolution of the Avengers, New York City seemed to be in constant change. However, in recent weeks, something much bigger was in the air. The tense and dark atmosphere was not just a metaphor, but a palpable feeling that affected everyone, especially those closest to Matt. Foggy Nelson, his best friend, and Karen Page, his confidant and partner, were increasingly concerned about the strange events occurring in the world, cracks in reality, brief lapses in time, and reports of a shadowy entity emerging in various parts of the planet. Daredevil, as focused as he was on keeping the peace in Hell's Kitchen, could not ignore the signs that something much bigger was happening. Then, one night, while patrolling the streets, he heard rumors among criminals about Victor Von Doom and the connection with Tony Stark in another timeline, a fusion that could give rise to a new version of Dr. Doom, something capable of causing Doomsday, the final judgment on Earth. At first, Matt tried not to get directly involved. After all, he was not an Avenger. But when Foggy was almost hit by a bizarre accident caused by the changes in reality, he knew he could no longer ignore the situation. He needed answers, and for that, Matt knew who to turn to. The Fantastic Four in doubt. Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic, was in crisis. Ever since the strange events and failures in the time barriers, he and his team, the Fantastic Four, have been trying to understand what is happening. The latest revelation about Victor Von Doom, trying to connect with an alternate version of Tony Stark, had shaken Reed to his core. Doom was already an immeasurable threat on his own, but combining with Stark's genius and technology in another timeline would create an entity that was unstoppable. Sue Storm, the Invisible Woman, tried to be Reed's anchor. "We'll find a solution, Reed." "We always do," she said one night, while he was immersed in endless calculations and analysis. "This is different, Sue. If Doom can't connect with Stark from another timeline, he'll have the power to bend reality to his will. And what we've seen so far, the effects that are affecting the world, is just a small glimpse of what he can do." The Fantastic Four's emergency meeting was underway when Daredevil entered. His presence did not go unnoticed, although it was Sue who first noticed something strange. "Matt." He removed his red mask and revealed his serious face. "Reed, I am aware of what is happening. These events are affecting all of us. I need to know how I can help." Reed was surprised. Matt Murdock, known for being the relentless defender of the streets of Hell's Kitchen, was now standing before him, wanting to engage in a battle that transcended mere urban warfare. "It's not your style to engage in cosmic battles, Daredevil," commented Johnny Storm, the Human Torch, with a slightly skeptical tone. "I have no choice," Matt replied. "When the people I love are at risk, when reality is collapsing, it doesn't matter how great the threat. I have to do something." The plan forms after a long discussion. Daredevil convinced the Fantastic Four that their help would be valuable. Reed believed that the only way to stop Doom was to sever whatever connection he was trying to establish with Tony Stark from another timeline. To do so, they would need to find Doom before he could complete his merger with Stark. Matt, with his heightened senses, volunteered to track Doom, using the strange vibrations in the air as guides to pinpoint the locations where the temporal distortions were strongest. He knew Doom was involved in this, and something inside him, something primal and intuitive, was guiding him to the right place. Reed devised a plan of attack. They would confront Doom in Latveria, where the temporal signals were strongest, and disable whatever device he was using to connect to Tony Stark from the other universe. While the Fantastic Four would provide raw power, Matt would be responsible for stealthily infiltrating Doom's facility and disabling the source of the threat. The road to Latveria. The journey to Latveria was quick and tense. The Fantastic Four had faced Doom countless times before, but now with the threat of the merging of realities, the level of power involved was terrifying. Matt was restless, his senses overwhelmed by what he felt in the air, as if the very fabric of reality was vibrating at a different frequency. As they reached the desolate mountains of Latveria, they realized just how serious the situation had become. Time rifts appeared here and there, distorting space and time around Doom's castle. The atmosphere was charged with energy, and the sky seemed to reflect the instability of reality. Every step was a reminder that this mission could be their last. "Are you sure about this, Matt?" Sue asked, her voice thick with concern. "I have to do this. If we don't act now, Doom will have the power to destroy everything and everyone." Encountering Victor Von Doom. Infiltrating Doom's castle was more difficult than expected. Doom's advanced technology and mystical defenses were in full effect, creating a nearly impenetrable network. Reed and Johnny struggled to disable the security systems, while Sue used her powers to keep the group hidden as much as possible. However, as they entered the central room, where Doom was working on an energy portal, Matt felt something strange. His sensory abilities were screaming at him, and that was when he realized the inevitable. Doom knew they were there. "Did you really think you could stop me?" Doom's voice reverberated through the room, his tone thick with arrogance and coldness. He was dressed in his iconic armor, but there was something different, an aura of power Matt had never felt before. It was as if Doom was partially fused with Stark's technology and magic. "Daredevil," Doom said, looking directly at Matt. "You are brave to try to oppose me, but your skills are insignificant compared to what is to come." Before Matt could react, Doom attacked him with a wave of mystical energy. Daredevil, even with his superhuman reflexes, was thrown against the wall with overwhelming force. He tried to get up, but his ribs were fractured, and the pain was almost unbearable. Reed tried to intervene, but Doom easily immobilized him with a force field. "You cannot stop me. The future is sealed. The merger between me and Tony Stark is already underway in another timeline. No matter what you do here, Doomsday will be inevitable. The defeat of Matt Murdock. Matt tried to get up, his legs shaking with pain. He knew he was at a disadvantage. Doom was more powerful than he could have ever imagined. But even so, he could not give up. With all his strength, he threw himself at Doom again, only to be knocked down once more. "You're pathetic, Daredevil," Doom sneered as he held him down with ease. "Did you really think you could stop someone like me? I am Destiny." The Fantastic Four were trapped, and Matt, injured, was helpless against Doom's power. But before the situation could become desperate, something unexpected happened. A blinding light filled the room, and a figure emerged from the dimensional portal. Tony Stark, from another timeline, but not as anyone had expected. He was struggling against the fusion with Doom, his consciousness still intact but fragmented. The rebirth of the fight, the new Doom Stark, a terrifying fusion of Tony Stark's genius and Victor Von Doom's tyranny, stared at Daredevil with a gaze that combined arrogance and a kind of mechanical coldness. The power of the new Doom emanated from his every move, a blend of advanced technology and mystical energy that defied all known logic. His eyes glowed with an intense light as he floated in the center of the room, his hands covered in mystical force fields. The gravely injured Daredevil was breathing heavily, but he would not accept defeat. Even in the face of the impossible, something in Matt Murdock refused to give up. He slowly rose to his feet, his heightened senses feeling every pulse of energy around him, every vibration in the metal objects in the environment, the hum of Doom's armor and Tony Stark's fragmented heart, which fought for control within that evil fusion. With a scream of pure determination, Matt launched himself at Doom Stark once more. This time, he was fighting not only with physical strength, but with everything he had learned in his life as a vigilante. He knew he could not defeat such a powerful force in conventional ways, but he could use his tactical knowledge to create a distraction. And that is what he did. As Matt moved with incredible agility, dodging energy blasts and landing quick strikes, he got close enough to Doom to free the still captured Fantastic Four. Using his senses, he located the device that was keeping Reed Richards' team immobilized. In a swift movement, Daredevil threw his bat toward the mechanism, hitting it with precision. The mystical bonds that held the Fantastic Four together came undone. "No!" Matt shouted as Reed, Sue, Ben, and Johnny all launched themselves at Doom Stark at the same time. The rage of the Human Torch. Even free, the heroes quickly realized that Doom Stark was more powerful than anything they had ever faced. Reed tried to restrain Doom with his elastic powers, while Sue used her invisibility abilities and force fields to try to weaken the villain. Ben Grimm, the Thing, charged in with his brute strength, delivering crushing blows. However, Doom Stark seemed invulnerable to all attacks. "You are insignificant," Doom shouted, his voice echoing throughout the room as he launched a beam of energy that slammed Ben against the wall with enough force to shatter it. "I am the fusion of genius and absolute power. The Earth belongs to me now, and Doomsday is nigh." The Fantastic Four were being overwhelmed, and Matt, with his energy drained, felt that the end was near. But Johnny Storm, the Human Torch, was not about to give up. He floated in the air, the flames around him more intense than ever. The heat grew stronger by the second, and the determination in his eyes reflected the desperation of someone who knew that this could be his last chance. "Is it hot in here, or is it just you, Doom?" Johnny taunted, his hands flaming with impressive intensity. He knew Doom's powers were vast, but there was a chance that if he focused all of his power into a single attack, he could cause enough of a distraction for them to escape. Reed realized what Johnny was planning and shouted, "Johnny, no. You're going to destroy yourself." But Johnny was determined. He couldn't let Doom win. With a deafening roar, he channeled all of his energy into a single point, creating a colossal explosion of fire. The flames completely engulfed Doom Stark, obscuring his vision for a moment. The heat was so intense that the room began to collapse. The explosion gave the Fantastic Four and Daredevil the opening they needed. Sue created a force field around them, and they fled through one of the castle's underground passages as the structure began to collapse. Doom's announcement. Doom Stark, though temporarily engulfed in the Human Torch's flames, was not defeated. He emerged from the flames with his armor partially damaged, but his power intact. The castle in Latveria lay in ruins, but that would not stop him. From within the wreckage, he floated to the highest point of the ruins and made an announcement that echoed throughout every major city in the world through intercepted broadcasts and hack media. His face, a mix of Stark and Doom, appeared on every screen. "Humanity," his voice rang with a tone of contempt and power. Doomsday is upon you. I am the new ruler of this reality, the power that controls all existence. There is no escape. Soon, the world will know the true meaning of destruction. He raised a hand, and the cracks in reality began to grow, expanding beyond Latveria and affecting other parts of the planet. The atmosphere darkened and chaos spread. The world was on the brink of collapse. Daredevil's final plan as they fled. Matt Murdock knew that they could not defeat Doom Stark alone. As powerful as the Fantastic Four were, they needed more allies. Reed, still processing the events, was deeply shaken by their failure to defeat Doom. He's merged with Tony Stark. I don't know how we can stop something like that, Reed said, his voice dark. Matt, even exhausted and aching all over, spoke with cold determination. We can't do this alone. We need help. We need to call in the Avengers. Reed shook his head. The Avengers? We don't have a team like we used to. They're scattered, dealing with their own problems. Then it's time to bring them back, Matt replied firmly. If we don't act now, there will be no world left to protect. This is bigger than any of us. It's all or nothing. Sue, Johnny, and Ben agreed. Even though they were defeated, they knew that their only chance of stopping Doomsday was to unite all available forces. Matt, with his sharp instincts, began to plan. They would need to find Sam Wilson, the new Captain America, as well as any other available heroes. The world was on the brink of ending, and only a union of all heroes would have a chance of stopping Doom Stark. The Avengers assemble. Daredevil, Reed Richards, and the Fantastic Four began contacting old allies and gathering what was left of the Avengers. Sam Wilson, now with Steve Rogers' shield, was the first to be found. He was on a mission of his own, but he knew that the situation was critical. Sam, upon hearing the report about Doom Stark and the impending Doomsday, immediately agreed to lead the new formation of the Avengers. Together with Bucky Barnes, Clint Barton, and a few new heroes who had emerged, they began to organize a counterattack. Matt knew their plan was risky. Doom Stark had the power to alter reality itself, but they had no other choice. It was all or nothing, the final battle to save the world from absolute doom. Now, with the Avengers back, even if fragmented, the real fight was about to begin. All or nothing. The final battle against Doom Stark was about to happen. Daredevil, along with the Fantastic Four and the remaining Avengers, were ready for the confrontation. They knew it would be an impossible fight, but they also knew they could not back down. The fate of the world was at stake, and Doomsday was lurking. That's our story for today. What do you believe about it? Will Doom Stark bring about the end of the entire multiverse? Don't forget to leave a comment with your opinion, click the like button, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any videos. I'm Mr. Screen and see you soon. Bye.